Hello, fellow listeners. Today I am at the Henry Cowell Redwood State Park with my awesome friend Dylan. Hi.
Hello, thanks so much for having me. This is such an honor to be here. I'm very excited to walk with you and have a chat with you.
Yeah, I've been to so many state parks, over from when I was young to 11 years old now. But how many state parks of California are there?
There's close to 300, so there's quite a bit. And in this general area, there's close to 30. So it doesn't take a lot for you to find an open space state park in this area. They're very easy to get to.
Wow. So state parks are really important to like nature, public enjoyment, and just like the value of the environment to the communities and the people who visit these state parks. So what makes a natural open environment qualify to become a state park?
That is a very good question. I don't necessarily think it's black and white. Usually there's some history involved. So if something monumental happened in the area in the past, it helps. One of the defining characteristics of a park are the resources, and by that I just mean here at Henry Cowell Redwood State Park we have these awesome coast redwood trees.
Ooh.
And they're all old growth, so they've never been cut. They have not been tinkered with by people. There's not a lot of those left, so because they occur in this area, it was very easy, not easy, but it was determined that this area should be set aside for protection because it had this resource, these trees.
Definitely. So zooming out a bit, what is a state park?
A California state park?
Yes.
Or a California state park is an area that has this really great balance, aims to have this really great balance between recreation, kind of like what you and I are doing today. We are walking through the redwood trees.
Right.
And conservation. So it's important for California state parks to find the balance between those two things. We can't only have recreation, we cannot only have conservation. So state parks is an area for both of those items to come together and find a balance between the two of them.
Definitely. Yeah. So on the note of conservation and recreation, on a scale of like 1 to 10, like how important are state parks protecting the environment to spreading the word about Earth and our natural habitats?
I think they are incredibly important. Yeah, and you know, we're talking a lot about balance, and I do think that California state parks provides just that, a balance. It's not a surprise how quickly humans are able to change the landscape.
Yeah, we're humans.
We're humans, you know, there's a lot of development going up, and open spaces, state parks, it provides a balance to that. The land is set aside specifically for preservation, and in doing so it creates a really great space for plants and animals to live there, and also for you and I and other folks to come and recreate in these areas. So, and that's obviously very helpful for us to do. So to answer your question, I think it is incredibly important because we're caring for ourselves, and we are also caring for the land. So finding the balance between the two is super important. Yeah.
So it's a win-win on both sides. State parks protect nature and also like affect and benefit our like mental health and also our connection with this big wide world that we live in.
I couldn't agree with you more, absolutely.
So, you are the head of the education department of California State Parks. So, education, what does that incorporate in terms of nature?
Yeah, absolutely, and I would love to piggyback. I am one of the members in the education department, so I oversee the education program here at this park, Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, and a few other parks in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And there are many other people just like myself who do the same thing in different areas of California. So I have colleagues in Southern California, in Northern California who do the same thing that I do here. So this is like the place where I'd spend the most time, if you
That's
will.
great, yeah. Teamwork.
Teamwork, absolutely, yeah. I think the root of what we do is to That was a bad joke.
That's a good one.
I think we really aim to create experiential opportunity for people in the parks because, and so I'll ask you a question actually. Is there something that comes to mind right now that you care very deeply about? Like, it could be flowers, it could be trees, animals. Like, is there something that you know you're very passionate about it?
Well, I usually love to learn more about like climate change and its effect on like the wildfire rates, the trees. I think trees are a really big one.
Okay.
Because they're being affected at a very quick rate.
Yes, okay. Now I asked that question because I am inclined to think that you are passionate about this because you've had an experience somehow relating to this interest of yours in your upbringing, or
Yes.
previously you've had experience with this. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I've been to a multitude of California state parks, like the Anzo Borrego one in, I think, Southern California. That one was really cool. And I attended an activity there that, it was during Christmas. So it was like a Christmas activity with like the desert plants, not necessarily trees, but one of the more like exotic plants unique to that area. And I loved how it was just like the tour guide said that those plants were a gift, like a Christmas present from nature. So it really stuck to me. And from then on, I've like blossomed even more, became like a nature fan and like a tree fan specifically.
I see. Blossomed. I see what you did there. That was a good one too. Okay, so that's brilliant because that shows us that yourself, myself, I think most people would agree with this, we care deeply about the things that we've had experiences with in our past.
Yes.
And so our goal here at the Education and Interpretive Program or department, our goal is to create space for people to have those kinds of experiences in the parks. And in doing so, we hope that we are providing them with scaffolding, if you will, something for them to hang on to and grow in a way where they care very deeply about the earth and about nature. So I think that is the ultimate goal, is to provide experiential opportunity for people in parks, all people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's really crucial too, because if they only visited a state park and had nothing to remember or to hang on to that scaffolding, then they wouldn't remember or hang on to a passion in nature.
I think so, yes, I agree.
So how do you create the scaffoldings? Do you create like tours, like the tree identification one that Tom led us on? Or like activities orchestrated, like scattered throughout the months?
Yes to both of those. And it doesn't end there. There are a handful of other opportunities that we provide for public participation. So lots of educational activities, as you said, the tree identification tour, great example. We have just guided walks through the old growth redwood grove here. We had another one at this park this morning going through the sandhills, but we also encourage folks to join us for different work days. For example, we have a native plant garden work day later, actually in about an hour.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so people can come and they can like learn about some native wildflowers, native plants, and they can actually help us nurture that garden. And so that is an educational opportunity, but it's also a more participatory opportunity. And there's many different workday type of events that we encourage the public, anyone, to come and help us with. So we try and do as diverse of activities as possible.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that visitors, people both young and old and scattered in the medium, can enjoy their stay or their visit at a state park and cherish those memories. That's scaffolding.
Absolutely, and I really like that you mentioned different age groups because, of course, tree identification, as you mentioned, sounds like it was very enjoyable for you.
Yes,
It's also very complicated, and for younger participants, that might be difficult information to hang on to retain.
Right.
And so we have plenty of opportunities for young kids too, but it has the same goal, is get them interested, get them excited, give them the scaffolding,
Right.
and create a space for them to have their own unique experience with the park and the land. Yeah.
So that's great. That's amazing. I love how the Education Department, California State Parks, blends experience with knowledge, with participation and fun to create that passion for protecting nature and like wildlife in general.
All of the different departments, not just in California State Parks, but any open space or outdoor organization works very closely with one another to reach the same goal. And so an example with our park, you and I have spoken about Natural Resources Department before. Natural Resources would be responsible, among other things, to go out into the park and maybe try and understand what species of plants or what species of animals currently live in the park. And when there's a new discovery, they might find something that they have never found in this park before. They need us to be able to explain why that's important to park visitors, and maybe even to create a space for people to responsibly have an experience with this new discovery, to help teach the public that why it's so important.
Right.
And that's one example of how two departments can work together, and in our teamwork, we hope to fulfill, our mission is, provide for the education of the people of California, not just people of California, but people, but at the same time, conserve these things and also provide opportunity for recreation. Can't happen without teamwork, so I think it takes all of us, but ultimately we think we make an impact. We hope to make an impact.
Yeah, you guys make a really big impact on the new generation, those both young and old. I never realized teamwork was such a crucial part to the success of basically a state park.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really cool that we're talking about this because teamwork is so important for those of us who work in state parks. Teamwork is also important for people like you and me. Obviously I work here, but you and I are teaming up today to do this really awesome thing.
Exactly.
And also, humans have to team up with nature if we ultimately want to help protect it and nurture the land, learn from the land, steward it. It's a relationship. It's teamwork. So I like that we're talking about this because not only is the teamwork between the two departments, but it's between humans and nature, park employees and the public.
Yeah, wow, definitely. Just like being able to collaborate with both people and these massive tree giants is wonderful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. So what part of your job do you like most?
I've been working for California State Parks for about 6 years.
Quite devoted. Yeah, nice.
It has been, quite a long time. I think at first I was very passionate about being outdoors and spending time in nature. And then the more time I spent within this organization, I kind of branched out a little bit.
Ooh, nice one.
And I realized that I am very passionate about sharing nature with others and trying to increase access to parks, because I do think that, as we previously spoke about, if people are going to build this relationship with nature, they have to have an experience with it. And so I like finding ways to give people that experience. And I'm probably more passionate about that nowadays, 6 years into my career here, than I am about just being out in nature myself. I want it available and accessible to everyone so they can build their own personal connections with nature,
Yes, that is quite selfless. I love it, I love it, I love it. So what would be your words of wisdom to yourself 6 years ago, or even when you were just a kid?
I guess I would just encourage myself to focus on the human relationships that I build in the parks as much as I focused on the relationship that I was building between myself and the park and the land. Because as we're talking about, I place more value in that nowadays. But it's so hard. It's hard to look at myself in the past because everything's a learning experience. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
Because I try and, learn from my previous experiences and stuff.
That's really self-reflecting. Because isn't life just almost like a practice run of learning?
Yes, wow, that's very reflective too.
If you were prompted with another chance to get a job, would you still choose this one?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We kind of hinted on this previously. I think humans and the current relationship that we have with nature, I think it could be deeper. And so, yes, I work for California State Parks, but it's not really just a job for me. I do firmly believe that experiences with the earth, with the land, with nature is very healthy for us. And so I would absolutely do it again because there's no way I'm gonna reach all of my goals. So yes, many lifetimes too, not just the next one, but
Right. I feel like once you build a connection with nature, it's everlasting. It's sort of unlike when you're in like middle school, for example, you have this friend group and then you jump from like those. It's like it's breakable and fragile, but your connection with the real world, it's really strong. It's really binding. It's formidable. So that's what I like about going into nature.
That is very well said. It feels grounding for me too. Very tangible,
Definitely. Yes. So, wise words from a professional to young kids who want to make a difference in nature someday?
We are in a very interesting time, wouldn't you say? Because
Quite, yes.
we have the ability to communicate immedicate right at our fingertips because of technology. And so I guess if I think about what I would encourage encourage from a younger generation, it would probably be using this technology in a way to just spread love for the earth and spread love for nature.
Right.
And that could take many forms. You know, maybe for one person it might mean pursuing a career with state parks, national parks, any park-like organization. For another person, it could mean pursuing a career as a researcher, a biologist, environmental scientist. It could also mean just spreading how unique and powerful nature could be, much like in the way you're doing today, I might add.
Yeah, it's interesting how we spread it in different ways too.
Yes, so absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. I would say use technology as a tool to communicate how powerful a relationship with nature can be, and hopefully in doing so inspire others to get outside, get into nature, even if it's just the backyard. There's so much nature even like on concrete, you can find examples of nature.
Yeah.
So just get outside, be with nature, and I think, yes, your generation has the tools, the technological tools to do that in a very, very cool and very powerful way.
Yes, definitely. So, what's your favorite part of nature? Just being in nature? Do you love the trees, the flowers, like more abstract things?
I might have two answers for that question.
Okay.
Personally,
Yes.
my favorite kind of nature is it's probably reptiles and amphibians. I know, Dylan, you work at a Redwood State Park. What are you doing? You love reptiles. You should be at Borrego. But yeah, I love reptiles, and that's because as a kid, you know, I loved catching lizards.
Oh, wow. Quite daring.
I never quite feel alone when I am in nature personally. I feel very connected to whatever it might be that is around me. The wildflowers, the plants, the trees, if there are birds, water, you know, like I feel very connected to those things. So I personally enjoy the feelings that nature kind of creates inside my body. I really love that.
Yes. It's like that spark that ignites a passion, and then it blooms, into something bigger.
Very clever, very clever.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Like,
Sure,
I would love
definitely.
to hear if you have a favorite sort of aspect of nature. Like, what do you love about nature?
So aside from trees and flowers, I feel like an animal in nature that I really love is birds, because like their calls are almost like super like out of the planet, because like some of them, like I heard there was a bird, I watched it on like some like streaming thing, that its call was like a witch. And there's some other birds whose calls are like those like sweet tastes of childhood or whatever sentimental thing that comes into mind, right? So I feel like birds are such diverse creatures that they're almost like humans in a sense.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And the reminder of childhood, you know, we're having this really great conversation about like previous experiences with
Right,
it. And I kind of
yeah.
just heard that from your story. So it's so cool to hear that. And even now, I'm hearing you talk about birds and I'm trying to focus in on like my sense of hearing and just in the treetops.
Yeah, chirping, yeah.
We hear a lot of chirping.
Yep.
That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that stuff with me. That was terrific.
It's my pleasure. It's really cool. This project of yours, this initiative it just feels, I used the word powerful previously, it just feels powerful. It feels like it can be very inspirational to others. And so I love getting the opportunity to talk to people like you who have these very innovative ideas. Oh, talk about birds. There's one right here. Wow, thank you for pointing that out. Wow. They're the same colors actually, red, white, black. This is called, some people call this a pileated or a pileated woodpecker. People use both names.
That's really cool. So
The largest species, woodpecker species in North America. It's like the size of a crow. Like if you imagine a crow right now.
Oh, whoa. That's really cool. That's big too.
Huge, huge birds.
Wow. I wonder, like, does it ever get tired of like bonking its beak into a tree?
It should. I don't know. I mean, I certainly couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, animals, nature in general has a way of like caring for itself and sort of talk about balancing things out. And so the way that a woodpecker's like head is structured, it has extra muscle around its skull essentially. So when it like taps, it's like cushions. So it can go like and it's okay
Yeah.
because it has these cushions to protect it.
Oh, that's so cool. And it just perseveres right there. It keeps bonking until it gets a hole.
It never stops.
Yeah, we can learn so much from animals though.
Right. If we sat here and just watched this woodpecker until it flew away, I agree with you, we would absolutely learn so much.
Patience, for one, which I totally lack.
Yeah,
Oh,
patience,
that's cool.
perseverance. Oh my gosh.
Commitment. Is
Maybe
this,
courage.
yeah, is this woodpecker like native to this area?
Yeah, so this is a native species of woodpecker. Again, it's called a pileated. I say pileated woodpecker, but again, some people say pileated. But yeah, it is native. We're able to tell it apart from the other species of woodpecker just because of the size. The other ones are small. Like an acorn woodpecker is like much
Just big,
smaller.
I guess.
Yeah, still big, but not as big as the pileated. But yeah, they're native to North America.
That's so cool. The world has this like way of unfolding. Like whenever I'm talking about something and it just like, it's there,
Yeah.
which is fun.
Yeah, so if we have the time, I'd love to add one more thing about woodpeckers
Yeah,
that relates
definitely.
to our conversation. So we were talking about teamwork previously.
Right.
This woodpecker and all woodpeckers it's an example of teamwork in the larger landscape because they like trees that are dead. It's easier work for them.
Oh.
And so if you have a tree that is dead but it is still standing, you're not going to have animals that like to live on the forest floor high up in that tree.
Right.
But a woodpecker, over time, if it pecks that tree, the tree gets weaker, eventually it falls over. And so the woodpecker speeds up when trees land on the ground. And when they land on the ground, poof, they'll like break into a whole bunch of pieces, and then, you know, like chipmunks and like, you know, kangaroo rats in this park, they'll live inside that tree that fell. So it is kind of an example of teamwork where the woodpecker, yes, is finding food for itself, or the acorn woodpecker, as you said, is like storing its food, but it's also eventually going to help so many other animals by speeding up the rate that the tree falls.
Right.
Yeah, they're cool.
Isn't it just like a community of animals
Yeah.
that's doing their best to survive?
Yeah, right, and they all depend, it's the same conversation we've been having today. It's like they all depend on one another. It's really balance and teamwork. Those seem to be
Yes.
like the two.
Definitely.
I'm glad we got to see that. That's really cool.
I would love to thank that man who pointed it out.
Right, yeah, maybe we would have heard it, but maybe not.
Yeah.
We should point it out too,
That
since
was-
someone pointed it out to us.
Yeah.
There's a really cool woodpecker. Sweet.
That was a very nice stop.
And it's like, that's perfect because we're recreating responsibly.
Yeah.
So there is a way to balance conservation and recreation. And we just did it. We were at a respectable distance. We
Right.
were quiet. We had this amazing experience with a woodpecker. And in doing so, it's like recreation, yes. Conservation, yes. There is still space for it. Yeah, that was really cool.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dylan. I learned so much, and we went a little bit deeper than state parks too, which I really like. So.
Me too. This was an absolute pleasure. It was super fun walking with you. I was very happy to do it.
Yes.
And I learned a lot from you. So this was great. Thank you
And
so
I learned
much.
from you too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work.